It's now time to connect our FK-ARM controls to the FK system. So these steps will be very similar to the steps that we've taken to set up the FK controls for the legs. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll go to wireframe mode. We know that we'll need to go in and clone our FK bones. So that's going to be the FK shoulder and forearm. Let's also grab those objects on the right side. Okay, we'll clone them. We'll head over to our script editor to resize them. So it's going to be a width and height of 1. So there's the width, and there is our height. Great, let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so now it's time to rename these objects. So remember, we're adding anim to their name. So this one for the left shoulder, this is going to be renamed to bndrv_anim. We also don't want to forget to remove the 02 at the very end. So I'll leave the other 3 up to you. I'll pause the video. All right, so now that they all have been renamed, it's now time to take the forearm and link to the shoulder. So let's go ahead and do that. Remember, we take the new forearm bone and link to the original FK shoulder. Also, that our controls will follow this FK system. We'll press page up just to make sure we are linking to the correct object. Remember, if you're having trouble doing that from the viewport, we could always work with the schematic view. So I'll go ahead and grab the forearm on the left side, and we'll link that to the FK shoulder. Great. So once that's taken care of, we're now ready to take care of our arm controls. Now, remember what happened with our ankles when we went ahead and reset the X form on those objects? Well, the same thing is going to happen with our wrists, so we can go ahead and prepare for that now by just grabbing these wrist controls, and we'll just go ahead and remove them and recreate them. All right, so after that, we'll now go in and connect the shoulders and forearms. Let's go ahead and start on the right side. We simply take our shoulder control and link to the new shoulder bone. Let's do the same thing for our forearm. Great. Let's do the same thing on the left side. There's 1, and now there's 2. And now when we reset the X form on these objects, that will allow their orientation to be matched to the bones that we've just linked them to. So with all 4 selected, we'll head over to Utilities, and we'll go ahead and reset our X form. Great. Let's also go ahead and collapse them down. At this point, we can now go in and grab our forearm. Let's go ahead and clone it and rename it to NML wrist FK01. And let's go ahead and snap this over to the character's wrist. Great. From there, we can press F3 and start to resize this. So just start to scale this down just a little bit more so it wraps around the wrist a bit better. Great. All right, I'll go ahead and press F3 again. Let's go ahead and clone this object. We're bringing it over to the right side, so we'll go ahead and take care of its name here, which is okay. And now let's go ahead and quick align this over to the right wrist. All right, once that's in place, we know that we can now go ahead and take that object and link it to the right forearm control. Now, very important, remember when we reset our X form, we essentially match the orientation of the bone here on the left side. So right now, this control object on the right, its orientation is matched to the bone on the left. So once we have linked to the correct control, we can now go back and reset the X form on this control object. Great, and then we can go ahead and collapse it down, and now the orientation will be matched. So let's do the same thing on the left side. We'll make sure to take that control object, and let's go ahead and link that to our forearm control. We'll go ahead and reset the X form and collapse it down. Great. All right, so we're now ready to go ahead and work on making sure that each of these controls are locked in the axes they need to be locked in. So remember, for the wrist and forearm, we're going to be able to move them and rotate them, but we want to lock down scale. And then for the shoulders, we want to lock down both movement and scale. Let's head over to our hierarchy panel and take care of that. So for the wrist, I'm just locking down scale. For the forearm, scale. And for the shoulder, movement and scaling control. So I'll pause the video so we can take care of the opposite side. Alright, so once our controls have been locked down, it's now time to work on our orientation constraints. So we'll go ahead and first work on the shoulders and forearms, and then we'll leave the wrists to the next lesson. Alright, so this is really straightforward. We'll just go in, we'll grab our FK shoulder, and we'll want that to be orientation constrained to our animation control. Beautiful. All right, let's go ahead and take care of the forearm. Great. Skipping over the wrist, let's go ahead and take care of the left side. Okay, so there's one, and there is two. Beautiful, so our controls are coming together very well. Now, what I'd like to do is go ahead and take this control on the right side, recolor it, and then make sure that it is stored in the correct layer. Alright, so we'll head over to layers, and we will find our arm, FK. Let's go ahead and highlight that layer and add it. Now we can go ahead and test this. That's working wonderfully. Let's go ahead and take a look at the left side. That should be just fine, but just to be on the safe side. Great. Alright, so we just want to check that from time to time. We can also go to our IK layer and just go through and just make sure that the controls that should be hidden are hidden. Great, so there is the right arm. We'll take a look at the left arm. Beautiful. Well, that's going to end this lesson. In the next lesson, we're ready to reorient our wrists.